Hi everybody, welcome back. I've got another monthly update video today. So this is an update on my eyeshadow palette that I want to entirely use up by the end of the year. I call it my Pan That Eyeshadow Palette Challenge. So I'm going to be putting up pictures comparing the progress of the palette this month compared to last month. I do actually now have two eyeshadow palettes that make up this challenge, but I'm going to start off with the main one, which is my mostly Modern Renaissance, but a few Norvina shades in here. I think there's 10 Modern Renaissance but 4 Norvina. So this is how the palette is looking now, and I do have some exciting updates. I have hit pan on 2 shades, and I have also used up 2 further shades as well. So I think I'm going to do what I usually do, put up a picture of the palette this month compared to last month, so you can see a little bit clearer how each individual eyeshadow pan within this palette is looking. Okay, let's start off with the top row. I'm going to ignore the first shade because that one has been an empty for a little while. The next shade along is called Golden Ochre, and this is the first shade that I have hit pan on since the previous update. I hit pan on the 20th of June, and the pan is now pretty big. This is a shade that I use to tidy up my finished eyeshadow look, so I use it to blend out the edges, just make sure everything is a little bit soft. I have used this shade 17 times since the previous update, and this one should be an empty by the end of the year. I think this one will only take me another few months to use up, so hopefully by the end of Q3 this one should be finished. Moving along, we have Vermeer. This one I used 16 times since the previous update, and the pan has gotten bigger. I think this one will take me another 2 months to entirely use up. Next one along I'm going to ignore. It wasn't Buon Fresco, I think it was base. It was a matte ivory shade, but that one I finished off a month or so ago. So the next one along, shade number 5, isn't called Antique Bronze, it's called Incense, so that's a Norvina shade. This one I used 17 times since the previous update, and this one has also gotten a bit bigger. The pan has gotten a bit bigger. This one I run along the lower lash line, and it's a really great mid-tone brown. That one should also take me until I think Q3 to entirely use up. The next one along isn't Love Letter. This one is also from Norvina, I think. This is called Eccentric. This one I've used 9 times since the previous update, and I don't think the comparison between the two pictures is much different at all. This one is one of 2 shades in the palette that I find the most difficult to use because it is very orange, it's very warm, and I like to wear more browns in comparison to oranges. This one I might struggle to use up by the end of the year. Next one along is called Cypress Umber. This one I used 10 times. I use this one to smudge out a brown pencil eyeliner that I sometimes wear on my upper lash line. I don't always wear it, which is why I've only worn this one 10 times. I think the pan has gotten slightly bigger. This one will not be an empty by the end of the year though. I do not use these dark browns enough to entirely use up, so this one will not be an empty. Okay, bottom row. This is the first shade since the previous update that I have completely finished off. This is called Raw Sienna. I finished it off on the 3rd of July, and it took me 17 uses to entirely use it up. A great warm mid-tone brown, great for the crease. That was how I wore it. Pleased to have used that one up. I would mix it in with the shade next to it called Burnt Orange, which I've used 18 times. This one I will now start to mix in with Incense, which is on the row above. It's called Antique Bronze in the pan, but it's not, it's actually Incense. I will now mix Burnt Orange in with that shade to run through my crease. I think I can use up Burnt Orange by the next monthly check-in, so hopefully that will be another finished pan in this palette. I'm going to skip the next shade. It's called Primavera. That one was already an empty. So moving along to the 4th eyeshadow in the 2nd line. It's not Red Ochre, it's actually Summer. This one I have also finished off. This is my 2nd empty since the last update. I finished it off on the 5th of July, and it took me 19 uses to use that one up. That one I would mix in with Vermeer in the row above. I actually prefer Summer to Vermeer. Vermeer is like an icy pink, whereas Summer was more of like a pale yellow gold, so I found that one to be a bit more flattering. Next shade along I'm going to ignore because that one was also and empty. So the second to last shade in the bottom row is called Warm Taupe. This one is the second eyeshadow that I have managed to hit pan in this month. Hit pan on the 22nd of June, took me 17 uses to hit pan on, and that one I would mix in with Incense in the row above and to the left to go under my lower lash line. But this one also works quite nicely in my brows as well, but I tend to forget to use it as a brow shade, so I tend to just use it under my lower lash line. I should also be done with that one by the end of this year. As I start to use up more of those mid-tone warm browns in the palette, I will then have to use Warm Taupe and Eccentric. So Warm Taupe should take another sort of few months, I think, to use up. And then the last shade on the bottom row is the only one that I haven't hit pan in yet. This one is called Railgar. This is a very warm reddish orange colour. So what I said about Eccentric in the row above and to the left, these two shades are the most difficult for me to wear in this palette because they are very, very warm. They're very orangey red, and I do like to prefer to wear more browns than oranges and reds. So finding it a little bit more tricky to wear those, but like I just said, as I use up more of these warm brown shades in the palette, I will be forced to wear these shades. They are lovely and they do complement my green eyes really nicely, but my preference is just browns ahead of these colours. So I hope to hit pan in Railgar this month, as I am then forced to wear it a bit more regularly because I would have used up other shades within the palette, but I don't think that one will be an empty by the end of the year. So that's the first palette. The second palette is this Revolution Reloaded Hypnotic palette. I'm only using one shade from this palette though, which is this matte ivory colour. I will put in a couple of pictures here actually. This one I used 21 times since the previous update. I use this one all over the lid to set MAC Paint Pot in Painterly, and then I will just go in with whatever eyeshadows I want over the top. And looking at the comparison pictures, the pan has gotten really big since the previous update. There was a pan there already anyway, but the pan has gotten that bit bigger. I think this will take me another 2 months. I don't think I'm quite going to be able to use this one up by the next update, but definitely an empty by the end of the year. And I do think 2 months, 3 maximum, and I should be done with that shade. So I'm really happy with my updates this month. I feel like with certain shades the pans are getting bigger and bigger, so that matte nude ivory shade that I just spoke about, some of the browns in here as well, so this brown, this one, golden ochre, I've hit pan in 2 shades, I've used up 2 shades as well, so in total I've used up 2, 4, 6 pans within this 14 pan eyeshadow palette, and I've got pan in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the remaining 8 shades. Yet to hit pan on Railgar. Hope it will happen, like I say, once I use up that brown, that one, that one, that one, so hopefully then I would have hit pan in it. By the next update I think I will only have 1 empty, which will be burnt orange, but then after that I think it will be Vermeer, and then maybe Incense, is that one? Yep, Incense, and then golden ochre. So I'm getting there with it, but I do think that it will just be these 2 on the end here that won't be empties by the end of the year, but whatever progress I can make in them I will be happy with. I just want to get as much use out of this palette and use up as many of the shades as I possibly can by the end of the year. And then also happy with how quickly it's taking to, you know, use up the ivory shade in the Revolution one. 2 months and I think I should use up that one, so happy with how quickly that one is coming along as well. So quick little update for you there about the progress of my eyeshadow palettes that I want to use up by the end of the year. So I feel like this one and my Project Pan update, I feel like I've made some really good progress in them. I'm pretty pleased with how it's going at the moment with regards to using up all of this makeup that I want to use up by the end of the year. So next video will be a quarter 2 makeup inventory checking video, so we will look at the overall numbers of everything within my makeup collection. But thank you very much for watching, hope you did like it, and I'll see you again soon for my next one. Bye.